Okay, good morning. This is Ted with Drone Ted, and I'm going to show you how to pop apart a P4 Phantom so that you can get to the motors, whatever you need. The camera is held on by T6 torque screws. There are 8 of them. In this case, I only have 2 on here. But they go all the way around the outside. Once you've got them off, lift it off towards the side that the SD card is on, like this. This happens to be a T4 Pro. There'll be a bracket across here. This bracket goes across here and holds this on. Once you've taken these 2 little screws out, then you can reach in with your fingernail and pop that off there. Next thing you have to do is take a small Phillips screwdriver. This is in double aught. There's 2 screws here, 1 on each side. Use a magnetic screwdriver, makes it a little easier. These screws fall down inside. Very hard to get them out. Now, there are 4 antenna wires connected on this side right here, opposite where the connector for the camera was. On the other side, there are 4 wires, antenna wires. You should mark where each one goes. There's a black one, a dark gray, a light gray, and a white. And they go in a specific order when you put these on. Just take those 2 screws out. Then you can lift down with your fingernail. Take this little cover off. Covers up those wires. Now I use a pair of tweezers and pop them off. The order that they go in, starting from the battery end, is black, light gray, dark gray, and then white is in here. And they just pop on, pop off. Okay, so you got those wires disconnected. It might not be a bad idea to take a picture of them before you take them off so you remember where they go. Now, you have to pop this drone apart. It's split top and bottom. They call this the middle section here where the legs are. This is the top section. After you've removed these 2 screws, take these wires out. You have to take the cover off, the end of the motor, and this little bracket. And this pushes straight down and out. You can use your fingernail and screwdriver. That pops out. Now I use a regular screwdriver like this. And in the end, you'll see a little slot. And you can stick your screwdriver in there, pop that up and out. Just like that. See, right there is that little slot where I pop it out. Now, each one of these will have a little plastic cover over the screws. Take that off. In here, using a, I believe it's a T8 torque, there are 3 screws on each motor. In this case, there's only 1. I've taken the rest off. There's a screw here, a screw here, here, here. These 3, These three over here, you have to take them all out. I've got all of the screws out, all of the other screws out. Speed this up. And again, I use magnetic, makes it easier in case you drop things. Now, I have already removed all of these screws. All of these are now gone. All of the screws have been taken out. And the next step is to actually take this apart. I always start at this end, which I'm going to call the front. Battery's the back, this is the front. And I use my fingers and I get in here and pull this apart. Now I also use these smudgers, pop them in there. They're plastic and can just pop this apart. This is coming apart easier than what yours will because I've already had it apart. Okay, now you've got it this far apart. At this point, you have to remove the antenna wires, or the compass wires are connected here and here. You can see these gray wires right here. These have to be taken off. I use a pair of tweezers with points on them. I reach in and get in here and you can see where they're kind of locked. There's one on each side. There we are. And there is the middle section removed. And these are the compass wires that I had to take off. I don't know if you can see them that well, but there's like a little latch on each end. You squeeze that latch to pop it off. If you need to replace the legs, this is the time you replace the legs. And they're done here. There's just 2 screws on each one. You don't disconnect the single wire, but the compass wire you are going to have to pull off and put back. So just be careful, take pictures so you know where everything goes. But today we're just looking at how to get to the motors. The motors are soldered on here, here, and here. There's a black wire, a gray wire, and a white wire. Each of these ESC boards is marked, and this is M1, M4, M2, and M3. So if you get an ESC error and you pop it apart, you can tell which one it was. If it says it was ESC4 is not working, then that's this one right here. Clearly marked M4. Now there's 4 screws that hold this cage in. 1, 2, 3, 4. You can see them. It's the same torque. You just reach down in here like this and take these screws out. Once you have them out, you can pull this up a little bit. If you're going to take it all the way off, down in here where you really can't see is where the compass is. The compass, or the GPS, I'm sorry. GPS is right here underneath. And the connection is here on the front of the drone. So if you're removing this totally, you pull it up high enough to get to that, and it's the same as the compass. You squeeze it and pop it off. But if you're just doing, if you're going to do the motors, you're going to want to just leave the GPS connected. Take these screws out, the 4 screws, pull this up enough so you can get to these with a soldering gun. If you have to replace the motor, you have to unsolder it from the ESC board. You cannot cut and splice these wires. If you do, you'll get an ESC error for each one that you spliced. They have to be unsoldered and soldered back. Now, it's very important that you have a good soldering station, not a $10 Radio Shack soldering iron gun. Needs to be a soldering station. You pop these wires up like this. At the factory, put some silicone in here to lock them in place. With these screws removed, now you leave this in place. You don't have to mess with that. That's kind of just stays there. The motor itself can be pulled off, pulled towards the outside, and removed like that. There it is. If you're going to replace the motor, you have to unsolder it, pull the leads through this hole, put the leads of the new motor in, resolder them, and this goes on here. You can see there's two little snaps. Goes on like this and snaps in place. Just like that. And then when you put the middle shell back on, you'll be able to put the three screws in to lock it in place. Don't put screws in here at this point because the screws will be too long and they'll go into the windings of the motor and ruin the motor. If you want to put one in to hold it in position while you're soldering here so that this doesn't come off, just put it in a couple of turns. Don't put it in all the way. Okay. And that's all there is to that. Now, if you have one motor that has dirt in it, you can take it to this point, just like I'm showing you, unsnap this, pull this as far as you can, get your vise, take the prop lock off, set this on the vise like this, like this. It's a little cumbersome, but you can do it like this without unsoldering. Tap the shaft out and repair it as I showed in the other video. And then put it all back together once you're done without unsoldering. Now these, if these come off, these lights, they go on like this with a light pointing. This is the LED light right here. They go on two tabs right here. And you can take your soldering gun and just touch these. It'll melt the plastic on these little holes and hold it in place. And that's all there is to repairing the motor. If you have one that needs to be replaced, or you have dirt in it and you want to take it apart and get the dirt out, that's how you do it, like that. On here, tap the shaft, pull the top off of this, like I showed in the other video, clean it all up, put it all back together, and then just put it back in. Now everything goes back together in the reverse order. You have to snap this back in here. Put these, tuck these down in. And the secret here is when you tuck these in, make sure you don't have the lead laying over top of this. It's got to go on the side because there's a screw goes in there. If you have that in there like that, the screw will go into it and ruin it. You've got to make sure that's off to the side. I generally put a dab of silicone in here and a little dab of silicone here to hold it in position. Let the silicone set before I try to put this together because you have to make sure this comes around that on each one of these. Now this goes back on just the way it came off. Here's the front side here. These compass wires. These wires, make sure they're all up here like this. Above the And they're all up here, which is not going well. There we are. That'll work for now. But this goes on like this. Very carefully you have to put these into the holes where they belong. They go right down into the legs, and that they end up right here. You get it in this far, then you pull these compass wires around, plug them in, both of them. Now use this just like this. I don't know if you can see it. But you very carefully push that in place, and there it is, pushed back in. And when you put this down, watch these wires. Make sure they don't get underneath, caught on the frame and pinched. But then you put it together like this, snap it, put your wires back where they belonged, and put all the screws back in, and hopefully you're done.